My drunk father demands I give my PS5 to my new stepbrother after mom died, so I did this. I, 17 male, come from a relatively poor household. My mother was a cashier at Walmart, and she did what she could to provide for my little brother and me. On the other hand, my father is what I'd consider being the cliché of the good-for-nothing dad. He didn't have a job and was a drunkard. It's not like I spent a lot of time with him during my childhood because he would either get wasted in bars or go cheat on my mother. The cherry on top was how abusive he was with mom. When he would come back home with more alcohol in his system than usual, he'd start looking for trouble with each and every person who existed within the same perimeter as him, but still, my mother was his favorite victim. She was extremely docile and submissive, and she would endure everything he put her through. I guess it's easier to accept abuse when you come from a problematic household yourself. My brother and I would often witness my father's violence. He'd beat my mother right in front of our eyes, insult her with all kinds of words, and each time, he had no real reason to be doing this, aside from wanting to hold her responsible for him being a total failure. When I became 15, I figured out I'd get a part-time job to help my mother with the expenses of life, seeing how my dad had no intentions of doing so himself. I knew that it wouldn't amount to much no matter how hard I worked, but I still tried to make it work. Soon enough, I jungled between 3 small jobs, one being a delivery boy, the 2 others were as a bakery assistant and at night, a waiter in a small pub. Seeing how I had no time left for other activities, I had to stop going to high school and never told mom about it because I didn't want her to worry. Every time she asked me how school was going, I'd repeat the stories my friend would tell me, and she believed every word I said. How innocent she was. After years of abuse and neglecting her health by overworking herself for our sake, my mother fell ill. She became bedridden and couldn't go to work anymore, so I became the only provider for the family. Seeing how my mother could not handle his little outbursts anymore, my father began to direct his violence towards me. I became his punching bag. He would beat me senseless every time I refused to lend him money to buy more alcohol. Saying I hate my father would be an understatement at this point. Things got worse, and my mother's health slowly but surely declined, and getting her to be hospitalized was not an option either because I could barely make enough cash to feed us. And so, like that, I saw my mother die while being and feeling totally helpless. My father didn't grieve. He didn't seem affected by the passing of my mother. He even went back to his drunkard lifestyle right after we put her down to earth. My little brother, on the other hand, was devastated. He was only 12 the year my mom died, and so he still needed a maternal figure in his life. It was heartbreaking to see. A little while after that, I would say 5 months maybe, my dad started dating someone, let's call her Karen. Karen was a nurse in the nearby hospital, and seeing as her job forced her to be around respectable people, I found it astonishing that she fell for my dad, but hey, who am I to judge? My father started bringing her home and even let her spend the night on more than one occasion. As much as I hated him for forgetting about mom so quickly despite all her sacrifices, I still felt relieved because he had a new distraction, and therefore, he stopped being violent with me. I also realized my father stopped asking me for money, and so I assumed Karen was now his new piggy bank. But turns out, she managed to find him a job as a security guard for the parking lot of the hospital where she worked, and just like that, my dad was no longer unemployed. How stupid I was to feel relieved because I had less responsibilities now, and the only person I had to take care of was myself and my little brother. I decided to quit one of my part-time jobs and dedicate that free time to learning some hard skills, and so I started some free online courses on app coding because I wanted to work as a freelancer. Soon after, I found little gigs that paid well, and it really changed my life. I was finally able to save money and actually buy things I wanted for myself and for my brother. After feeling more secure financially, I figured out I'd spoil myself, and so I bought a PS5. My little brother was totally freaking out when he saw it. We started spending hours playing against each other, and I can say that for the first time in a while, I saw genuine happiness displayed on his face. As I had more money and more free time, I decided to get back to school and pursue my education. I felt as if life was finally looking up for me. But then reality hit me like a truck. It was one of those average boring days. I was going home after a day of swinging between classes. I was tired, and I had work I had to finish for one of my clients. I got to my house and knocked on the door. Usually, my little brother would come sprinting and welcome me inside with a hug. But this time, the person I found behind the door was not my brother. Instead, it was another boy, who seemed to be around my age, maybe a year younger. I'm a rather shy person, so I didn't have the nerve to ask him who he was. Perhaps I knew him from somewhere and just forgot his face, or maybe he's the son of one of my late mother's friends. I smiled awkwardly at him, and then I got to my room. There I found an additional bed and my little brother's belongings packed in boxes. I was clearly confused, and so I went to look for him, but he was nowhere to be seen. I then went down to the kitchen where I overheard my dad talk to Karen to ask him if he had seen my brother. He told me that he was a little upset and he went out for a walk. Now the question that got repeated in my mind was, why would a 13-year-old go on a walk by himself? I wanted to go out looking for him, but my father stopped me in my tracks and said that he had something important to announce to me. So I turned around to face him and his girlfriend and just waited for whatever he had to say. He grabbed Karen by the shoulder and brought her closer to him. And with a smile, announced that she and her kid were moving in to live with us. To be honest, I kinda expected this to happen. It also explained why my brother's stuff was in my room. They probably gave his room to our new stepbrother. And so I just nodded and went back on my tracks. The next day, also known as yesterday, we were all having dinner together, for the first time in what felt like ages, because back when Mom was alive, he'd never come home early to share dinner with us. I was minding my business cause really, I had nothing to say to them, but my dad, on the other hand, had a few things on his mind. He stopped eating and called out my name, and so I looked up at him, clearly annoyed. This annoyance turned to anger when I heard what he had to say. Believe it or not, he told me that I should give the PS5 I worked my ass off to get, to my stepbrother, as a welcome gift. For a split second, I thought he was joking, but his serious expression told me otherwise. I was furious, and so I got up from the table and flipped him off. Now I'm currently spending the night at a friend's house until I figure out how to deal with my father and his crazy expectations. Update: I didn't expect this post to blow up, and since a lot of you have been asking me for an update, here it is. I had a talk with Dad about him wanting me to give up something I earned myself, but it was useless since he insisted it was the right thing to do, saying how it would make my stepbrother so happy. So I thought that the wise thing to do was to sell it to someone and save that cash and add it to the money I've been saving for my brother's future college tuition. This just happened last night, and I can still feel the flames burning in my body. So, when my boyfriend and I got together, he and his mom shared a basic Costco membership and it helped us every now and then when it came to saving money. Now the account was hers and she is the primary, and fast forward a year later, BF and I updated, and I paid from the basic membership to executive membership. That gives you 2% or 5% back after a full year, and it is nice knowing with all the money I spend we can get a little something back, especially since we have a baby now and go either once or twice a month. Now I am saying I spent the money because I make the most in the household and regularly pays. Well, I told my BF to change the address soon because of history with him and his mom with money. I was worried she was going to do it again with this check and take it the chance she got. BF told his mom what we did and informed her that we wanted to change the address to be our address so we can get the check sent to us when it does. And she completely understood and agreed since she had planned to cancel the account anyways. For me, I wanted to change the account and get a new account with me being the primary, but BF insisted we just renew his mom account since she helped us the year prior with it. So, on the very next weekend, we had all gone as a family to change the address and get pizza to enjoy at home. And it made sense to all of us since she only gets 2 to 8 items at most, $20 to $55, for her Costco run when I spend about $250 to $380 a run per month or even sometimes twice a month. Especially when I paid for my BF to get new tires on his car, and that was a big drop of money. Well, if you know Costco and the dates, they send out that check on the first week of February, and I asked BF if he had seen any mail come in for the check and he said he hasn't, but he got a weird feeling and just randomly asked his mom if she had seen the check come to her house and she said no. Well, last night we made an emergency Costco run for food for baby and diapers, and I remembered about the check and suggested we go to the customer service desk to ask when they will send it out. Well, come to find out, the mom had changed the address back to her house and the check had been sent out the first week of February. Boyfriend has been texting and calling his mom and she has been avoiding him. And now I am livid. I told my boyfriend that I want that money back. All of it, and he said she can't pay it back and is sure we won't see it anymore. She knows I work the most while my boyfriend is at home with the baby while he looks for full-time work again and always putting in overtime to afford the lifestyle that my little family has, so this is personal to me and it makes me sick to my stomach. My boyfriend is trying to calm me down and trying to tell me that she won't pay it back, but I am fully prepared to ban her from coming over to the house. Am I the a-hole? My, female 19, sister, 32, Mary and her husband, 28, John have twins, a boy and a girl, both 10 months old. My parents were ecstatic when they found out she was pregnant as the twins were their first grandchildren and my sister had been struggling with getting pregnant for a while. I was happy for my sister and John, but I couldn't help wondering how they were going to handle this financially. They're in quite a bit of debt and both work long hours. My question was answered a few weeks ago when we had a big family dinner, me, parents, Mary, John, brother Mike, 21, brother Josh, 25, and his wife Sophie, 27. My sister announced she would be returning to work in 2 weeks, so they were going to need everyone to chip in and babysit and to help out financially. I'm not gonna lie. I was shocked when I heard this because it sounded a bit ridiculous that they expected everyone to babysit their kids for free and to give them money for their debts. Mary went around the table asking everyone when they could watch the twins so she could draw up a roster and how much money they could spare. Everyone was contributing, and Sophie was even talking about trying to move her work shifts around so that she could babysit. I'm a full-time college student and I have a part-time job at a bakery, so I really have no time or cash to spare. I'm also not great with kids, especially babies. I literally have absolutely no idea how to take care of them. When Mary got around to me, she said she thought I could do the most hours since I was only in college and didn't have any serious commitments. Her whole attitude kind of annoyed me, and I told I wasn't going to be babysitting her kids or going to chip in money-wise, and that it was her decision to have kids, so it's her responsibility. The room went silent and my sister started crying and everyone started giving out to me for being selfish, and my mom said that in our family we take care of each other. I left the dinner because everyone was so mad at me and demanding I apologize. I agree that maybe I was a little blunt with her and maybe I should have offered to babysit once or twice, but I don't think I'm completely in the wrong. My family is still pissed at me and my parents are demanding I not only apologize to Mary and John but write them a check to help them out. I have like $70 in my bank account, so that's not gonna happen. I want to apologize for being rude, but I know they're still gonna expect help. Am I the a-hole? I, 56 male, need to start this off by clarifying that I have been nothing short of an amazing dad to my kids and my ex, 55 female, for as long as her and I have been divorced. We separated on really bad terms and I made sure to put in extra effort to make sure that didn't seep onto my relationship with my kids. It was a focal point of my everyday routine, to check up on them and take a step in the right direction of strengthening my relationship with them. I remarried a couple of years after my first marriage and had 2 more beautiful children with my now soon-to-be ex-wife, 47 female. Again, terrible terms, but I would like to believe that this time, the reasons are a bit outlandish and ridiculous. But then again, if a relationship can fall apart because of simple arguments, then it was never meant to go far from the start. There's another side to the story as to why the relationship failed, which you will come to learn later on. My wife and I are in the bait of hosting annual parties, mostly birthdays for the kids, but we both enjoy the planning process and it's usually our source of relief. We usually host them in celebration of 3 of my kids' birthdays that are in the same week and the first on the following New Year's. So we have all the reasons to make it as grand as we can afford to make it. This story takes place in one of those parties and the very one that led to her wanting a divorce, even though I can safely and objectively say that she's in the wrong here. 2021 was a really rough year on everyone, but I will forever be traumatized by the events that chained up on me during it. It was a huge series of unfortunate events and my life at home with my wife was becoming less and less amenable. She's a needy woman, and though I always loved that about her because I love giving myself. I'm at a point in life where I need to take from her. I need her support, her affection, and most importantly, her patience. A lot of people that I was really close to passed away due to Ovid, and 2 of my kids that live away from me suffered severe symptoms. I was genuinely under a lot of stress and in a constant state of anxiety all throughout this year. When its end was finally upon us, I was hyped up about the upcoming hosting. I was also really excited because I knew that my wife and I kinda used this as a reset button for the mistakes and we've done throughout the year. We bond over the process leading up to the party, and then we spend it with friends and family and have a conversation at the end of the evening that kinda settles scores for the 2 of us, and I really appreciated that. I was looking forward to something that was going to result in the end of my marriage. If only I knew then what I know now. Anyways, the weekend comes up and we're preparing and I see that she's treating me in a really snarly and unpleasant way, which I obviously didn't appreciate. Only she didn't even seem to notice that her attitude towards me was so toxic, that or she was really adamant on invalidating my sentiments. I really didn't appreciate her dropping on the floor and bluntly telling me to pick it up or go walk the dog while I do the right way or whatever way she would find to demean what I was doing for the party's sake. I tried to start a conversation about it, but she swiftly turned it into an argument and wasn't cooperating at all, and that seems to be an attitude that she carried along with her to the party. Evening came around and our friends and family gathered at our house to celebrate my youngest son and the one at the end of the weekend. I hope this hasn't gotten too confusing. Just that at the end of that weekend, it would be a 3-in-1 birthday party. Plus a long tedious list of things, a reunion, a chance to make good memories, but usually and most importantly, a reset button. Her attitude had gotten to its lowest point. While other couples around us laughed and evaded their usual life problems through something that was supposed to be for us, I was genuinely getting emotional. I'm an emotional guy, And for the most part, that's what she has always loved about me. Not this time, I guess. When I went around her with my kind words and gestures that usually worked best that day, she pushed me off, yelled at me and told me to get my act together so we can get things over with and get over myself. I was really hurt, and then that quickly escalated into frustration, and I was demanding why the hell she was the one putting up this act when I was the one with more things on my plate and more reasons to hold it against her during this evening. She was holding a plate and smashed it against the sink, then told me that if that was the case I should run around and tell people that she had cheated on me with our neighbor, who is one of my kids' age and could barely be considered an adult. She wasn't shy with her tone, she wanted to be heard, and she proceeded to run outside to the backyard where everyone was shocked by what they had inevitably just heard. I would have immediately snuck out the gates if I were in their shoes, but I wouldn't need to do that because my wife then picked up a jug of water and poured it on me. "This'll help you cool off even more." I literally remember her saying that, and the lights inside my head went off. I took it from her hand, threw it near the bonfire and pushed her down the pool, and for some reason, that was the peak of the evening for her. She went on and on about how I discriminate my kids from my first marriage and how I am a deadbeat dad and abandon them just because, and I quote, "her meow meow tasted better." I was genuinely humiliated. I literally wanted to reach into that pool and pull her out, then push her again so she could shut the hell up. The reason she's now asking me for a divorce isn't because she realized she won't be able to deal with her guilt about cheating on me in the worst way possible, or that we had embarrassed and humiliated each other during one of the most important evenings of our marriage. Not that she had confessed to doing something horrific in front of everybody that was there, or that she called and insulted me, things that the kids at the party are never going to forget. The tipping point for her was that I poured a glass of champagne on her and pushed her down the pool when she wouldn't shut the F up about it. There's a part of me that's really happy this marriage will come to an end, and I will probably never have to meet or talk to her family members that were there that night. Honestly, the idea of having to explain how the hell things escalated from us being cool and chill around one another to us throwing shit on one another and pushing each other around while tearing apart our family, is a lot more terrifying to me than standing in front of a judge and explaining to him why this woman shouldn't be allowed custody of my kids. Yes, I am planning on going for full custody because I honestly don't think she would be able to manage. She might have called me a deadbeat dad BC. She thinks I'm abandoning my kids for her, but God knows that I've not changed towards them, nor will I ever do that for anyone. To me, everybody comes and goes, except for my children. And this very marriage proves exactly just that. So last marriage didn't end as poorly as this one, which meant that my first wife and I split custody. That's obviously not gonna happen again because she's not going into this with a friendly tone, and I have no plans of nothing but reciprocating that. Update: this happened barely a couple of weeks ago, so the divorce process is just starting for those of you asking if I did manage to get custody. My lawyer says that my finances and history with my ex-wife is promising, and it should grant me a good chance at having my request. I've also seen many people saying that this is just from my side and that I'm exaggerating. This is somebody's life, and I wish it was an exaggeration of something simple. I'd rather suck up the guilt any day over having to watch 2 more of my beautiful kids suffer the fallout of my marriage. I'm guilty of a lot of things, but the story happened exactly the way I told it, so you invalidating my point of view is not only disrespectful but extremely annoying as well. Last Friday I was out for a drink with a friend. We'll call him Mark. We stepped outside to smoke a joint, and Mark's friend saw us and came over to say hi. We'll call Mark's friend Damon. Damon is super energetic and pretty aggressive. Seems like he's coked up, but I didn't want to make any assumptions. He sees the end of our joint and asks for a hit. I said yeah and handed him the last of it, and he said, "No, I want a big joint. I like to smoke a lot. You should roll me a big one instead." I told him that's all I had, so it's either that or nothing, and he obliged and finished the joint. Then he proceeded to spend the whole night pestering me to go home and get some weed to roll him a big joint, and it drove me crazy because he wouldn't take no for an answer. This didn't seem to bother Mark at all. So we go our separate ways, and I went home frustrated. The next night myself, Mark and a group of my friends went out to a techno gig, and at the end my friend who was DJing invited me and my group to an after party. At 2 a.m. the club is clearing out and we're getting ready to go to the after party. As we're grabbing our coats, Damon appears with a drink in his hand, wondering why everyone is leaving. I pulled Mark aside and said, "Hey, just so you know, he didn't get an invite to the after party, and I don't want to get in trouble for bringing a stranger into my friend's house." Mark nodded and went to talk to Damon, who was busy creeping on the girls in our group, making them visibly uncomfortable. Next thing I know, Damon is taking me into a separate room to talk, asking me why I hate him and why he's not allowed to come with us. I just told him that he wasn't invited and it's nothing personal. Then Mark steps in and says, "Yeah, but after last night you said he annoys you, so you do have something against him." I said I don't need to explain myself, he didn't get invited and it's as simple as that. Then we all went out separate ways. This has now gone around to all my friends now who are upset that I'm treating Damon this way because he's from a rough background and I should be more understanding. Here's my thing, it's not my job to teach grown adults how to behave. I'll be totally civil with him like I was on Friday, but I draw the line when his behavior starts affecting my friends. He was making the girls in the group uncomfortable and annoying the rest of us. I'm not going to bring him to an after party to bother everyone and have my friends get mad at me for bringing him. Now a bunch of our friends think I'm an asshole who won't tolerate someone from a rough background going through a hard time. I will tolerate a lot, and I feel for him, but the thing is, although his mental health isn't his fault, it's still his responsibility. I've talked to a bunch of my friends and a majority of them have said I'm in the wrong, so now I feel like I'm in the minority and it has me wondering. Am I the a-hole? I, 19 female, decided to get my dog pregnant before getting her neutered. And decided to keep one of the puppies and find a great home for the rest. I spent the entire pregnancy taking extremely good care of her. My aunt expressed interest in having one, a grown-up, stable job, big house with a big backyard, and taking good care of her dogs. She lives close and I could check up on the puppy. The puppies were born in the middle of the night. I was alone. My brother was supposed to come home that night and he decided to not come home at all because he didn't want to help me. I ended up calling my sister for help. My dog gave birth to 3 puppies, and I took care of them while my brother made fun of me for being scared that one of them wasn't eating. He died after a few days. A few weeks go by, and the 2 puppies are growing up, and I call my aunt to set a date for me to bring the dog by. She said she was out of town for work, so she suggested I wait a few weeks. In the meantime, my brother's girlfriend texts me and asks me if I could give her one of the puppies. She also said it was for her 5-year-old sister. I told her no, they all have homes, because I had already told my aunt that I was giving her one, and I intended on keeping one. She didn't respond. I immediately got a text from my brother asking me about the puppies, which sounded like they were together. I said I already told sister-in-law that they all have a home, and he got mad. He insisted that I give her a dog. To be honest, even if I hadn't agreed with my aunt, I would have said no anyways. I have been to her house. They have a dog that is aggressive to other dogs. On top of that, they constantly have the gate wide open, which would lead to the puppy running away. And no matter how mature the kid is, she is a kid, and she would treat the dog like a toy and probably lose interest in it in a week. I said to my brother I already said no, they all have a home, and he kept insisting until he got even madder. He started saying that it cost me nothing to give her a puppy, that I was being selfish, and that even if I was going to give one to our aunt, I still had one to spare. I told him no and stopped responding. I started to tell him how unfair it was that he wanted a puppy for his girlfriend and he was in the wrong for putting her feelings first, since he was saying that my actions were hurting sister-in-law. He said if I didn't do it, it meant I didn't like her and her family, since I was denying the 5-year-old a puppy. I then said he had no right to say that because he ditched me when they were born and he never showed interest in helping me take care of my dog when she was pregnant. He then demanded I apologize to sister-in-law for my behavior before he could apologize to me. I told him I wasn't going to apologize to sister-in-law even if he did apologize to me first, since I wasn't in the wrong. He threw in a fake apology and kept demanding I apologize to sister-in-law. So, am I the a-hole? I never thought I'd be posting this here, but I really need an outside opinion. I, female 26, and fiancé, male 29, have our wedding planned for December this year. This incident happened last week and I think I might have to cancel the whole thing. Fiancé proposed to me in Jan this year. I noticed mother-in-law didn't seem really happy about it. I thought it was weird, but then again, it was sudden. Mother-in-law herself has been engaged for a year and she's the kind to make it a competition. Also, we didn't always have the best relationship to begin with, but I really hope she'd get over it. My fiancé even said he'd talk to her. But nope. She remained cold and didn't even come to the wedding dress shopping with me. We sent the save the date in August, and almost immediately after receiving the message, Mill called. I was taken aback because she had never contacted me personally before. On the phone, she seemed chirpy and really insisted to see the wedding dress. She also said she'd like to be more involved with food and drinks because it was her special day too. I felt she was almost edgy over it. I didn't want to risk anything and politely told her that I wanted the dress to be a surprise and had already planned the food and drinks for the day. She did not take it well. Basically pressured me into involving her more. I tried to pacify her by involving her in decorations and wedding cake, but as the days passed she got more and more obsessed about it. She literally called the caterers behind my back and altered the whole menu. I was already so stressed out over the wedding thing, and her bizarre behavior really bothered me. Both my parents talked to his side of the family, and once again fiancé told me he'd talk to her. This all came to a head last week. Sister-in-law texted me in the middle of an appointment, saying she had something important to show me. She then proceeded to send me the picture of mother-in-law's dress for the wedding. It was a full-blown wedding dress of an almost similar design as mine. I immediately called my seamstress and she confirmed she had gotten a call from mother-in-law a week before asking for my wedding dress's pictures. She told her that she was taking stress off me by making sure it's being fitted well. I almost got a panic attack. I immediately called my fiancé and mother-in-law's partner. I tried to call mother-in-law but she kept disconnecting. Fiancé did say he'd talk to her but I was losing my patience. Rehearsal dinner was to be this week and I really wanted to be in peace for once. I told him I needed some time off and I'd call him the next day. I spent the evening with my friends to cool off and went back to mine and fiancé's house late in the evening. I saw mother-in-law and fiancé were already there, clearly in the middle of an argument where mother-in-law kept calling me that woman. I tried to intervene but she wouldn't stop screaming. I eventually lost my patience too and screamed back at her, calling her a few choice names. Not proud of it, but I was really done. I told them to leave my house and we'd talk tomorrow. Fiancé tried to talk to me but I didn't have the energy. I didn't even wait for them to leave. I just went back to bed. Cut to next morning, I feel weird. My head felt lighter too. I thought maybe I drank a bit too much with friends but boy. Was I wrong? I immediately screamed when I saw the mirror. Someone had chopped off my hair and dyed them red. My hair was all uneven as if someone clearly wanted to damage them. I was so distraught but somehow collected myself and tried to look for my fiancé. He was still sleeping on the couch from the last night. And mother-in-law, she was in the guest room sipping coffee as if nothing had happened. I asked her if she had done this and she accepted calmly. I wanted to scream so bad but her calm composure actually scared me. What if she tried to hurt me next? I tried to wake up my fiancé next. He eventually did and looked surprised seeing me but in a knowing kind of way. I told him then and there, he had to choose between us today. I can't have that crazy woman hovering over my life now. She tried to take over my wedding, went behind my back to destroy everything that I planned and now this. Who knows what she can do next? This man, I kid you not, I've loved for 3 years just said he'd talk to her. Yes. That's all he said. I did not stay to listen any more of his. Immediately packed my bags while he tried to backtrack. He tried to gain sympathy by saying things like I should understand and that he's her only son. I just left. I called my sister-in-law because in this moment I felt like I could only trust her. She had warned me about mother-in-law before. When I reiterated the incident to her, she said that mother-in-law was actually trying to sabotage my wedding for months now. She even asked my sister-in-law about every detail so she could somehow make it about herself. What blew me more was the fact that fiancé knew all about it and in sister-in-law's words, was keeping me away to keep the peace. I really need advice on this. Can I even marry this man? He keeps calling me but I'm not too sure now.